Every single time you write a sentence, vote in an election, or even just look at a calendar, you're tapping into an idea that was forged thousands of years ago. So today, we're going to take a super fast tour of the ancient world. We're going to uncover the foundational innovations in farming, law, and belief that not only created the first great civilizations, but honestly built the world we're all living in right now.
So, let's start with a really basic question. What actually turns a small village into a massive, sprawling civilization? It's not just about having more people or bigger buildings. No, it's about the complex systems. Everything from how you grow your food to how you govern yourselves that let a society build something that can last for generations. And we're about to break down exactly what those systems are.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the essential ingredients for any civilization. Then, we'll see how rivers and writing became the spark for the very first cities. After that, we'll check out how empires were actually managed, explore what these ancient people believed, and finally, we'll see how their world is still echoing in ours today.
Okay, section 1. What does it take to build a civilization? Historians have a kind of checklist, a few key ingredients that really separate a large settlement from a true, complex society.
It all starts with surplus agriculture. The moment you can grow way more food than you need, well, everything changes. Not everyone has to be a farmer anymore. This lets people specialize, and they start to gather in these dense urban centers, the first cities. But of course, cities create new problems, right? You need rulers and social structures to keep order. And to manage all that, trade, taxes, laws, you absolutely need a system of record keeping. And boom, that's the birth of writing. And all of this is supercharged by new tech like metalworking, which gives you better tools and stronger weapons.
Let's jump into section 2, rivers, cities, and writing. Now that we know the ingredients, where did they all first come together? Well, the answer, almost everywhere you look, was along the fertile banks of a major river. Water wasn't just for drinking, it was literally the engine of civilization. And this pattern is just undeniable. Look at this. From Egypt on the Nile to Mesopotamia on the Tigris and Euphrates, all the way to the Indus and Yellow rivers in Asia, it's the same story. These fertile valleys meant huge food surpluses, and that surplus is what fueled the growth of cities, incredible new technologies, and crucially, their own unique systems of writing to manage the whole shebang. So in Egypt, that writing system was hieroglyphics. And these were not just pretty pictures, okay? This was the operating system for the entire kingdom. A single decree carved by the pharaoh could be perfectly copied and understood hundreds of miles down the Nile. That enabled a level of centralized control that was totally unheard of before. Then you've got Mesopotamia, where the Sumerians developed cuneiform. They pressed these little wedge-shaped marks into wet clay tablets. This system was so incredibly versatile that it was used for over 3,000 years. It recorded everything from epic poems and the laws of kings to, the simple receipt for a bag of grain. Okay, section 3, forging empires and order. So writing in cities solve one set of problems, but they create a huge new one, scale. How on earth do you govern millions of people scattered across vast territories? Well, the ancients came up with some pretty powerful and very different solutions. Two main models really emerged. First, you had divine kingship. In places like Egypt and Nubia, the ruler wasn't just a powerful guy. He was considered a living god. His authority was absolute, end of story. The second model, which Rome really pioneered, was totally different. It was based on law and citizenship. It started as a republic where officials were elected, a radical idea that power should come from the people, not from the gods. But when it came to managing just pure, massive scale, the Persian Empire was in a league of its own. As the biggest empire the world had ever seen, they had to invent entirely new systems of government just to hold it all together. And one of their most brilliant innovations was this, the world's first postal service. It was such a simple, genius system. They built a huge network of royal roads, set up relay stations with fresh horses and riders, and they could get a message from one end of the empire to the other with incredible speed. This was the internet of its day, absolutely essential for military commands, tax collection, and just general imperial control. And then, of course, there was Rome. It's an amazing story. They start as a small republic of citizens, but through centuries of just relentless military expansion, they grow and grow. But here's the twist. Their own success stretched the republic to its breaking point. These huge territories and super powerful generals were just too much to manage.
and it paved the way for the rise of an emperor and the birth of the Roman Empire.
Let's shift gears now into section 4. We've talked about the physical and political stuff, but what about the ideas that gave it all meaning? How did ancient people understand the universe, their purpose, their place in the world? This is the world of gods, thinkers, and beliefs. In Egypt, religion was woven into the very fabric of daily life. They were polytheists. They worshipped many gods. And their deep, profound belief in an afterlife is what drove some of their most famous achievements, like the incredibly elaborate process of mummification and, of course, the construction of the massive pyramids as eternal homes for their god kings. Meanwhile, ancient India became this amazing cradle for two of the world's major religions. You have Hinduism, which is one of the oldest faiths on the planet, evolving from this rich blend of early beliefs. Then, in the 5th century BC, a new philosophy emerges right out of that tradition, Buddhism, founded on the teachings of Siddhartha Gautama and his personal path to enlightenment. Over in China, a philosophy popped up that was less about gods and the afterlife and more about how to live a good life right here on Earth. The teachings of Confucius gave people a practical, ethical framework for social harmony, respect, and good government that would become the absolute bedrock of Chinese society for thousands of years. And really, this whole era was just an explosion of revolutionary ideas. In Persia, you had Zoroastrianism, one of the first great monotheistic faiths. In the tiny city-state of Athens, you get the radical political experiment of democracy. And growing right inside the Roman Empire was a new faith, Christianity, that would eventually reshape the entire Western world. And that brings us to our final section, Echoes of the Ancients. After this whole whirlwind tour, the big question is, so what? Why does some Sumerian clay tablet or an old Roman road still matter to us today? Well, the answer is simple, because we are still living in the world that they built. Seriously, just think about it. The way we structure our laws and governments owes a huge debt to Rome and Persia. The philosophical questions we ask were first framed in Greece and China. The very math and writing we use to send a text message started in Mesopotamia. From our deepest spiritual beliefs to our highest political ideals, the echoes of the ancient world are absolutely everywhere. So, I'll leave you with this to think about. From the alphabet to the idea of law, which of these ancient innovations, forged thousands of years ago, has the biggest impact on your life today? It's a powerful reminder that the past isn't just history, it's the very foundation of our present.